Come on in. Welcome to Idled Out, where we talk all things Survivor. My name is Luke, and today we're talking about the new era Survivor players who should, no, must be on Survivor 50. At a fan event in late April 2024, Jeff Probst impromptu announced that Survivor 50 will be returning players, and pandemonium broke loose in the Survivor community. Former players began pre-gaming, scores of fantasy cast lists and videos flooded Survivor social media, and here I am with my own, striking while the iron is hot, here in mid-June. Despite the fact that Survivor 50 won't air until spring 2026, I just can't help it, okay? I'm as red-blooded as the next Survivor fan. I hear the word returnees and my monkey brain just starts going. We obviously don't know a theme yet, so when creating my wish list of new era players I want to see back again, I kept in mind players who would fit any potential theme. Realistic possible returnees who would be right at home in anything from new era all-stars to a general legend seasons to old school versus new school. These are 12 new era players who will fit basically any theme for Survivor 50. A little housekeeping. We'll be going in boot order from Survivor 41 through Survivor 46, and I've tried to assemble a variety of personalities and playstyles. And yeah, the obvious people you think are probably going to be on here will probably be on here, but there will also be at least a few surprises along the way. Again, though, I'm trying to keep this to realistic returnees, so even though I wish Broccoli Brad could come back, for example, I'm not going to put him on here. Which new era players should be back on our screen soon? Let's find out as we take a look at my wish list of new era Survivor players who should return for Survivor 50. Starting with Survivor 41, the first new era player I'd like to see back for Survivor 50 is Shan, the unequivocal star of and our sole representative from Survivor 41 on this list. I think Shan 2.0 would be really interesting to watch. She had a stranglehold on Ua, she had a stranglehold on the early post-merge, but every alliance and relationship she formed ultimately devolved into a toxic and petty fight for power. Shan often unwilling to cede any control. Shan made 41, and my question for her going into a second season would be, is the jig up? She plays a cold-blooded mercenary game. She even had her own evil theme song that she made up. That's supervillain status right there. And 9 seasons removed from 41, would everyone have forgotten how dangerous a player she is? Would there be bigger fish to fry? I think initially yes, but Shan would quickly remind everyone why Danny and Deshawn nuked their own games just to get rid of her. Honestly, I don't see much of a change from Shan in a second shot from a gameplay point of view, and that's fine by me. But it would be really interesting to see Shan go toe-to-toe with players on her level, instead of, Brad, JD, and Genie. Let's move on to Survivor 42 and potentially our first long shot and hot take. Let's put Tori on the board. Tori rules. On the outs from the jump, yet not out of the game until the midpoint, Tori was shockingly good at playing from the bottom and extending her shelf life long beyond its expiration. Scrappy, a secret immunity beast, bizarre and transparently gamey attempts to connect with others. Tori was so much fun in the first half of 42, plus she had a very gracious exit under difficult circumstances. A bit of a meme player the first time, but I think Tori would have serious winning upside on a second chance, given time to reflect on her game and where it went wrong. I think she's underratedly good at the strategy part. It's just that her social game needs some serious finesse. Like, a lot of finesse. Overall, I'd be pretty high on a Tori Return's chances of success. The Wentworth factor would be real here. But even if she's just the same old Tori, we, the audience, still win. I mean, the Harry Potter Alliance? Who tries to build an alliance in Survivor on, I'm a Hufflepuff? The next player I want to see from Survivor 42 on Survivor 50 is Jonathan. Look, sometimes you gotta throw Middle America a bone, okay? I think Jonathan's pre-merge challenge run this season was enthralling to watch, even for people who don't typically care about the challenges. Very rarely have we seen a Survivor player this good in the team challenges, and Jonathan dragged Taku to the merge almost single-handedly. Strategically, I think a Jonathan run back would be fascinating. I could definitely see Jonathan coming in not only with the brawn, but with some new strategic chops. The biggest problem for Jonathan would be what got him last time: hunger slowly wearing him down mentally. He really peaked early in 42, and I worry that would happen again. But overall, I think he'd have another decent run in him. Excuse me, that's not his exercise of choice. My apologies. I think Jonathan would have another decent pull-up with 100 pounds on his back in him. The last Survivor 42 player on this list is Marianne. If winners are on this season, I think Marianne will be making an appearance. One of the best characters of the new era, gold in the confessionals, an incredible player with impeccable timing, and one of the most wholesome and kind people of all time. Survivor would be crazy not to bring Marianne back. I think Marianne would take the JT approach on a second shot. Play her second time like she's playing with house money. More than any other winner I'm going to have on this list, I think Marianne would have the most motivation to mix her game up. Marianne played a safe, measured game in 42 before turning on the afterburners in the endgame, and she's smart enough to know that she'd be one of the bigger targets. Would she fall into the shadows and try to play Puppet Master like Omer, or would she play boldly and out front from the jump? I'll be honest, I don't see Marianne becoming our third two-time winner, but I do think her second shot would be another classic case of the bunny having dinner in the mailbox. Remember the silly sayings they had to say to get an idol? That was one of them. I think our first Survivor 43 player on this list would probably come as a package deal with Cody, but for now, let's talk about Jesse from Survivor 43. One of 3 new era players I would consider a bona fide lock for 50. Potential players should probably just start pre-gaming with Jesse right now. Jesse would have a Rob C in All-Stars level target on his back, so I do think it would be a tough road ahead for him in an All-Star setting. He could be an early boot, but I don't know about that. Great, understated social game built on sincere bonds, his unthreatening challenge performance, and a persuasive and shrewd strategic mind. I could definitely see Jesse going deep again, despite the bullseye that will undoubtedly be on his back. In Survivor 43, Jesse showed us an impeccable strategic and social game so good, people were just giving him free idols and not even narking on him when he sent them home. And he took out his own ally in the most cold-blooded boot of the new era. What would he have in store for us in a second shot? Look, there's a non-zero chance Jesse is an early boot because everyone is going to want him as a trophy, but I think if anyone could wriggle out of an early elimination, it's Jesse. All he has to do is just make a simple checklist. Our next Survivor 43 player on this list is Owen. Owen is a good Survivor player trapped in a bad Survivor player's body. Or maybe it's the other way around. He's a bad Survivor player trapped in a good Survivor player's body. Either way, I think most would agree that Owen's got more gas in the tank when it comes to Survivor and would really be seeking redemption on a second chance. It seems like every season now, there's someone who plays a solid enough pre-merge game, but then it just slips away from them at the merge. And that's what happened to Owen. Chronically left out of plans and a constant backup plan, Owen's post-merge game was just letting the game happen around him, and he occasionally let frustration get the better of him. I think Owen had the social and strategic elements for success in Survivor, but being on the wrong side of the first 2 merge votes really damaged his game in a way that he never really was able to recover from. More than anyone else on this list, I think Owen would come into 50 hungry to prove that he's a good player and has a good game in him. Plus, if we're talking the archetypal young male Survivor superfans, at least one is going to be on 50, and better Owen than anyone else on the board. Let's move on to Survivor 44 and our second lock of this list, Carolyn. What does a Carolyn second chance look like? How many bizarre new faces and noises can she make? Let me find out. Authentic is the only way to describe Carolyn. She's funny, she's wild, she rolls around on the ground more than any person should. Her and the merry band of misfits known as the Tika 3 played from the bottom basically the entire game and made Final Four together. We know Carolyn is great at playing from a disadvantaged position with close allies. I'd really love to see Carolyn play from a different spot in the game. Like, what does a Carolyn comfortably in a majority alliance look like? What does Carolyn's game look like without two ride or dies by her side? Knowing she got 0 votes to win last time, would Carolyn play a more strategically out front game? Would she be more willing to blindside her allies? Carolyn's probably a lock regardless, but I do think coming into 50, we'd see a more confident player from the start with Carolyn. And I think a lot of people would actually be lining up to be her new Carson or Jam Jam. And speaking of, the other Survivor 44 player I think we're very likely to see on Survivor 50 is Jam Jam. I'd love to see how one of the best social players of the new era would navigate a season of big threats and pre-game alliances, and I would love to see Jam Jam go toe-to-toe with some of these big personalities. At first glance, Jam Jam is probably one of the bigger threats on the board considering his winner status, but I don't know. I think his relatively low profile post-game might actually help with his threat level. Plus, with a first game built on loyalty, social bonds, and sincerity, Jam Jam's game is actually somewhat non-threatening so long as you're aligned with him. He's fun to be around, you know where he stands with him, and he has this ability to make people laugh even when they're arguing with him. People got blindsided by Jam Jam and weren't even mad. He's so disarming, he even disarmed us with that first confessional about pooping in the ocean. I think Jam Jam could surprise us in Survivor 50. Survivor 45 is full of players I'd love to see back. Honestly, you could run back that entire post-merge gang and I'd be happy. But Caleb seems like a must. Dude maxed charisma and luck on his special stats, for sure. Caleb is like my favorite genre of Survivor player. Willing to take big swings, gold in the confessionals, and kind of messy in the game. Who doesn't want to see Caleb back? I'd be curious to see what another Caleb run looks like. If not for the shot in the dark, his game last time would have gotten him a pre-jury exit. So I'm sure he knows he'd have to change up something. Does he dial the schmoozing back, or does he dial it up? As for his chances, on a tribe with Brandon, Sean, and Hannah, Caleb was simply too overtly threatening. I mean, he could climb ladders. But on Survivor 50, where presumably everyone is a big threat in some manner or another, I could totally see Caleb charming his way to the top in a second shot, and he would definitely have star-making Boston Robin All-Stars upside. They should probably get rid of him early, but they probably won't. The other Survivor 45 player I consider a must for Survivor 50 is Dee. Considering she co-hosted Jeff's podcast last season, it's clear that CBS likes her. She's the near universal consensus best player of the new era, and I think she's probably one of the first calls going out for 50 when the time comes. Dee was super strong strategically and socially, and the more I hear in post-game press about how well the Reba 4 hid their tight allegiance to one another at the merge, the more I'm impressed with all of them. But Dee was the best. She was always in control and always had her eyes on the prize, even if it meant playing up a showmance a little bit. One thing Dee was exceptionally skilled at was getting that invaluable island currency: information. Only Dee would say she has 2 number 1s, and we'd all be like, well, that breaks the laws of physics, but yeah, you kinda do. In a returning season, I could see Dee being one of the earlier boots just because she really is the whole Survivor package. and everyone knows it now. I really think she'd have to pull a Tony in Winners at War and try to blend into the background as long as possible and just pray that the others forget about her. Still, Dee's a must for 50, though I'd be cautious on betting on her going far again, unless Austin's there too. Moving on to Survivor 46, and I think we can pretty confidently say Venus is getting a call. Venus brought drama to this show that, frankly, I thought was a thing of the past. Her game was so fun to watch because she often had the right reads, but no social capital. Then she'd get really mad when no one listened to her. I think she was quick to interpret every word or glance in the most negative possible way, which led to her game never taking off. The success of a Venus return depends entirely on one thing: has she seriously reflected on where her game went wrong? In the game and in post-game press, Venus blamed everyone except herself for her failure to launch. If she's seriously studied and learned from her 46 performance, she has winner upside. If she hasn't, I don't think they're going to tolerate Venus for long. Either way, I think Venus is probably gonna be on Survivor 50, which is also coincidentally the amount of times she will delete and reactivate her Twitter account between now and then. I would consider the final person on this list the biggest new era lock for Survivor 50, Q. I'm sure that even 4 seasons removed from Survivor 46, Q will be on everyone's minds. Which version of Q are we going to see on 50? Q was a good and dependable enough ally pre-merge, willing to help uplift some of the floundering players on Yanu. And post-merge, he tried to vote himself out at Final 10, he formed an alliance of 6, then targeted every single person in it. And then he survived several votes where he was the backup target before going out with an idol in his pocket. As for how he'd fare, am I crazy to think he'd make the merge? He's too headstrong and too stubborn to truly change things up, but the thing is, Q's pretty good in the pre-merge. He's a team player and willing to fall on the sword when he screws up. Against the odds, I could see Q coming into the game with a massive target and squeaking by to the merge. Regardless of his placement, I'm already excited to see Q back. He's a lock for 50, and I'll be wearing my Q skirt for the premiere. Got nothing else for ya. Which new era players do you want to see on Survivor 50? Let me know in the comments. Until next time, don't get idled out.